Welcome to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where it's all about helping you complete your financial journey to retirement. Discover time-tested strategies and get unconventional insights into wealth building and retirement that actually work. Break away from the herd and go for the retirement you dream of. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
Okay, here we go, back on Personal Pension Radio. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate those of you who have been with me for a long time, just going with me on this journey. It has been fantastic. I really do appreciate it. Those of you who are brand new, I am the income engineer. My specialty, my passion is delivering that retirement dream that Wall Street has promised for all of these years. Unfortunately, they don't teach financial advisors everything they need to know to truly help people maximize a retirement income. A retirement lifestyle is driven and fueled by income. And Wall Street teaches primarily that the answer to retirement is to save more money. Save more money. If you lose your dog, it's because you did not save enough money. If you get a flat tire, clearly you did not save enough money. That's Wall Street's answer to everything, especially retirement, is you better save more money. Save more money. The reality is that maximum retirement income does not happen with a product. It doesn't happen with a 401k. It doesn't happen with real estate. It doesn't happen with investments in general. It doesn't happen with life insurance or annuities either. None of these things by themselves will help you actually achieve maximum retirement income. You've got to fight conventional wisdom about retirement planning and bad advice from financial entertainers and realize that optimizing retirement income is a balance over all of these different things. It is a balance in real estate, perhaps, investments, life insurance, stocks, bonds, etc. Whatever those things are in your life, the proper balance is what's necessary to go after maximum retirement income, that lifestyle income that Wall Street promises, but unfortunately they only deliver half the story. And my mission, my goal is to help you break away from the herd. You hear that in my intro, literally break away from this conventional wisdom and the way of thinking and look at things from a different perspective and realize that maximum retirement income is not just simply the answer of funding your 401k and maxing out this or that or buy this or that. It is not. It does take an actual plan, an actual strategy to get there. Now, disclosure, I am not an attorney. I am not a certified public accountant. I am certifiable as a financial planning professional. I've got all those letters and numbers after my name. With all that said, please don't act on things that you hear on this show. And especially, please don't act on things that you hear from financial entertainers like Dave Ramsey or on any other radio or podcast that's hosted by someone who's not actually a financial planner. They're not licensed. They're not regulated. They have no oversight to be doling out advice. Please don't act on things that you hear on these other locations and even on my show as if it was advice for you. Meet with a qualified financial planner. I would love that financial planner to be me. I work with clients all over the country thanks to the wonders of technology nowadays. The world is a very small place. So don't be limited by geography. We can have a conversation over web meeting or Skype virtually any time. So please, if you're interested in your own situation, contact me, Kraig, K-R-A-I-G, at kraigstrom.com, and we can have a conversation. I would very much look forward to it. Now, let's jump in. I love this bonus segment, my deal of the week. You know, Kraig's deal of the week. If you've listened to my show for a while, you know I am a very thrifty individual. I really do not like to pay retail when I can avoid it. I like to find a deal. And I like to find a deal quick and easy whenever possible. I don't really see huge amounts of value in searching and endlessly searching for something that I might need or that would make my life better and then I'm going to spend, 6 months searching for it. And well, that just sort of defeats the purpose. However, I do just love those deals of the week. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback from folks on that. So let me tell you about my deal of the week this week. So those of you who've listened a long time, you know that I have a hobby as a car show organizer. And I also have a car dealership license so that I can buy and sell cars. Now, I continue to work on the car dealership and work on making that a profitable investment as well. And that is moving along, having fun with both of those things. Now, as part of my car dealership hobby, I use the front office of a repair shop near where I live. So this repair shop does basic engine work and maintenance and brakes, etc. And so I use the front office for my dealership license. You've got to have a location, etc., etc. Now, the repair guy that I work with, having that office, he needed a new car lift, a hoist, an actual lift to be able to lift up cars. He has one. However, it would be far better in his shop if he had two of them. Now, in looking for a lift, he's looking, and we're talking about it, and these new car lifts that he needed were about $2,800. $2,800 or more, depending on the company and the size. But the one that he needed, retail price was about $2,800. Got that? Now, in less than 5 minutes on the Craigslist app on my phone, I found one 30 minutes away. And while I was going to be in the area for a client appointment, I figured I would stop by and see this lift that was for sale at another repair shop. All right, got it? Now, I get there to see the lift, and there was a repair guy using it at the time. So clearly we could tell the lift works. He even lifted the car up and down, and you can see there's a car sitting on the lift. It works, right? It is fully functional. And the only reason they're getting rid of these particular lifts was they're paying for brand new ones, which is something that some businesses will do to get a tax break at the end of a year. Now, I'm not going to go into tax advice for those folks, but that's what they were doing. So here I am. I'm taking a look at this car lift that retail would have cost us $2,800. What do you think? What do you think I paid for that lift? Well, my friend paid for that lift, but what do you think that we got it for? $500. $500 cash. That's a $2,300. Oh, plus tax. That would have been a $2,300 plus tax. So we're looking at about an 85% savings. And then 85% savings. Okay. Please don't pay retail without checking the worldwide interweb in the palm of your hand. The palm of your hand. We saved 85% in a matter of less than 5 minutes. And that lift, the guys picked it up the next week, grabbed a big trailer, and then they even loaded it up for them. And they brought it back to the shop. So he's going to be setting up his new lift today for $500. That's amazing. Please, if you've got kids and family out there, please have this conversation with them. I actually just yesterday had a situation where I use these apps. I use Craigslist and I use OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace. If I have things around my house or things that belong to me that I have not used or I'm not going to be using in a long time, I'll take a few minutes and snap a picture and I'll put them up on Craigslist for sale or OfferUp for sale. Because I don't want to have a garage sale. Personally, I'm not a garage sale kind of guy, but nowadays your garage sale can be in the palm of your hand in the form of an iPhone, right? So I snap a picture of some of my snowboard equipment because my daughter's off at school with her friends. She's a little far away. We're not going to go snowboarding together. I really don't like snowboarding in Southern California. It's just too crowded. So I decided I'm going to sell my stuff. And I had an item for sale, and a young kid, maybe early 20s, he comes to buy my crash pad shorts. And he's going to buy them for $40, which for me, hey, it's $40 I didn't have. It's all right. I like that. It's easy. He drives over to me. And then he asked me why I wasn't snowboarding anymore. And we started talking, and he said, then he realized, and he said, "Is your snowboard for sale?" And I said, "Well, yes, it is, actually." And he said, "Can I see your snowboard?" And he got kind of excited about it. And I went and grabbed it. It's a very nice board with this and that. And he kind of looked a little bummed, like, oh. And I said, "Well, what's the deal?" And he says, "I really don't need the complete snowboard and the bindings for the boots. I already bought a snowboard." "Really?" I said, "How much did you pay for a snowboard? I'm just curious." $700. He paid retail. This kid is barely in his 20s. He paid $700 for a snowboard. And my snowboard with bindings on OfferUp, the same app that he was coming to buy my crash pad shorts, the same app. He didn't search for snowboards. I'm selling mine for $250, complete with bindings, right? This kid, just for the board, $700. Please, parents, talk to your kids about paying retail. They can't afford it to begin with, let alone pay retail, right? Now, all right, I'll get off that particular soapbox. Last week, I talked about how financial planners get paid and the associated biases that of each of those methods, right? That if you want to go back and listen to episode number 141, please go back and listen to that. I actually had written an article about how financial planners get paid, and that each of the areas that they get paid, myself included, there are associated biases that go with that. And the key there is you just got to know what those biases are and search for the financial planner who has a bias in favor of you. That's the key. Now, this week, oh my gosh, this week, thank you to my dear wife for bringing this to my attention over the weekend. Washington, the White House, man, they floated a doozy over the weekend. Friday, Saturday, they floated, oh, what a just amazing thing. I cannot believe that this actually got out. But, well, no, I shouldn't say that. I totally believe this got out, okay? Washington and President Trump's budget plan floated the idea to limit contributions to 401ks, to reduce the amount that you can put into 401k savings on a tax-deferred basis, that the new proposed amount was $2,400. Currently, you can put in up to $18,000 plus in a 401k and not pay current taxes on it. This proposal floated was to change that down to $2,400 a year. Unbelievable. Okay? It's just amazing that they would float such a thing, but they did. That's the key. Listen, there's almost $5 trillion in 401k plans today. So who do you think the biggest screams came from? Right? Was it the general public? Because a lot of you are listening to this podcast going, wow, I never heard that. I didn't hear anything about that on the news. No, you didn't. So who were the loudest screams? $4.7 trillion in 401k investments. Yes, the loudest protesters were Wall Street investment firms. Wall Street investment firms about had a hemorrhage. Like, what are you talking about? Right? They are angry. Now, let me tell you a story, though. I've shared this before on the podcast, and I want to tell you my story about a planned hunting adventure that the government organized in 1978. In 1978, Congress organized a controlled hunt. A controlled hunt is where you get a wild critter and you put them in a big giant area, but basically the area is all fenced in, so the hunter really has a kind of an easy job of getting that wild critter. It's a controlled hunt. So in 1978, Congress passes the Revenue Act of 1978, which included this wonderful little section about the 401k, which ultimately became the 401k that we know today. Now, they went to Wall Street and said, hey, we're going to do this controlled, organized hunt where we give everybody this great tax break to put their money into investments. And we want to know, hey, Wall Street, will you manage the money and market it for us? Well, of course, Wall Street says, wait a minute, we're going to get a bunch of people that are going to be incentivized by the government to put money into investment accounts every month. Of course, we'll market it. So Wall Street now has nearly $5 trillion in 401k investment money, right? All right, now. So the Congress passes this new law, got things going. Wall Street's going to market it and manage the money. We need a hired gun. We need a hunter. We need someone to pick off the wild critter when they're in that fenced-in area. So they have the IRS. The IRS is there to collect when it's time to collect. So the IRS is the hired gun. So there you go. That was my visual on the 401k plan and the IRA rules. In 1978, Congress passes the Revenue Act, and an organized hunt was created. Wall Street markets it. IRS collects the taxes when it's time to pick off those of us who are in that fenced-in area. Now, when you look at this idea that Washington floats a 401k contribution limit down to $2,400, think about it for a second. Who makes the rules? Right? Who made the rules? Washington. Do you think they can change the rules anytime they want? Right? And for those of you who think, oh, this is a Republican versus Democrat thing, let me take you back to 2015. Let me take you back to 2015. In January of 2015, then President Obama's tax proposal included a dramatic change in the college savings 529 account rules. Again, most people don't even remember this because it was floated out and it was said that 529 plans benefit primarily the wealthy, so it's unfair. Now, the Obama tax planning and the administration walked away from that, and they backed it up and said, whoa, we're not going to do that. After they received this huge backlash, right? They floated the idea, though, that they were going to change the rules of 529 accounts. Oh, people are getting too good a benefit. Well, what happened just over the weekend is that the Trump administration floated the idea that we need to change the 401k contribution rules. Sure enough, this morning, just before I go to record this podcast, President Trump tweets out, there will be no changes to the 401k. Well, of course, there's huge backlash. However, folks, they floated the idea. It's not a Republican or Democrat thing. You had Obama floating the idea of cutting and changing the rules and the tax benefits of 529 accounts. And that's like the ultimate save for college thing that people think. It is not, by the way. And then you have Trump floating the idea of changing the 401k rules. Folks, who makes the rules? Who created the hunt? Congress and Washington created the hunt. Who can change the rules? Keep that in mind. Now, I don't believe that they're going to make any major sweeping changes to that right now, but man, did they float it, and that was amazing to me. I cannot believe that. It's scary stuff, folks. It really is. So now, let me go on to the next segment, because that was Watch Your Step. Seriously, watch your step. If you haven't heard that, pay attention. Now, last week I covered a great listener question about whether these folks should include their business on the college application forms, on the federal free application for federal student aid. And the answer was generally no. There's a lot of good information back there on the last episode that goes into a bit more detail. Please check that out. Last episode, I also talked about the Monte Carlo simulation. Listen, if you have never really understood what a Monte Carlo simulation is, and it is not a casino somewhere, it is that thing that if you don't have someone like me on your side working with your retirement income plan, you will someday hear a Monte Carlo simulation and you will not like it. Go check out that episode. Now, this week, I want to touch on it. Can you retire on the 401k? Can you retire on the 401k? This is one of my observations I wanted to bring to your attention. Now, you heard me say there's nearly $5 trillion in the 401k, but what is the average balance in the 401k? What's the average balance? National average balance in the 401k plan is $92,500. Folks, come on. You cannot retire on that, right? $92,500. So, what if you are one of the rare few that has a massive balance? Let's do an example. Let's take an example, and I've only seen a handful of these, and I saw one recently, that someone actually had a 401k balance after a couple of different company moves and income raises, etc. They had $1.5 million, let's say, in their 401k plan. Now, let's talk about retiring on that 401k plan, and let's pretend for a moment that you never met the income engineer who specializes in maximum retirement income planning. And let's just say you're working with your basic Wall Street advisor, and you've got $1.5 million. And you get there at age 65. The typical Wall Street advice is, hey, you should start your retirement at 4% draw. 4% draw. It doesn't matter if you have been earning 6%, 7%, or 10%. When you start to draw, your Wall Street trained financial advisor is more than likely going to suggest that you should not draw out more than 4% per year and raise that up for inflation. But let's start retirement with 4%. That's $60,000 a year on $1.5 million. You heard me, $60,000 a year. So let me ask you, this is my observation. Do you think someone who was the rare few that was able to save up $1.5 million, do you think they were really earning $60,000 a year? Oh, but Kraig, you're going to get Social Security as well. Great. Let's throw another 30 grand on there, and now we're at 90 grand a year. Do you think someone who was able to gather up $1.5 million in a 401k, do you really think they were making $90,000 a year? No, they were not. They'd be making somewhere around 200 grand a year, and we're talking about taking them from 200, 180, 190, and we're going to drop them down to 90 grand a year? No, we're not, because $1.5 million is a 401k balance. $60,000 a year in retirement income? No, it is not $60,000 a year in retirement income. The IRS, remember, the hired gun in the hunt, gets the first, let's say, 25%. The IRS gets 15 grand off the top. So these folks, $60,000 is whittled down to $45,000. Their net withdrawal is 3% after taxes. 3% after taxes. So if they still got their $30,000 in Social Security, here's the terrible part. Over $48,000, I'm trying to remember my number, right? In total income, Social Security can be taxed up to 85% of it. So they're going to pay taxes on their Social Security and on their 401k withdrawal. So their net withdrawal from 401k is maybe 3%, and they're lucky maybe to get over 70,000. They're probably still going to net in the 60s after taxes, congratulations, you're a millionaire and you're making $65,000-$70,000 a year in retirement. Folks, that is not a retirement income plan. That is a plan that keeps the money with Wall Street for a longer period of time. You've got to have a retirement income plan. That's the kicker. Retirement income plan is the key. It is not one tool, one product that fixes it. You have to have a strategy that actually allows you to take maximum income from those things that you've been able to save up. Now, I want to finish with this. This is actually from a new client that I recently met, said this. He said that he's way behind with his retirement savings. Well, most people are, right? Way behind with his retirement savings, and he wanted me to talk to him about investments. Now, we went through a pretty lengthy interview conversation, and I asked, why investments? Why do you want me to talk to you about investments? And he said, I need to retire someday. So I asked a question about his business. Now, his business is in the concrete business. Finished concrete, walkways, sidewalks, just beautiful, really actually quite beautiful driveways. They do some amazing work. This business is all in concrete. Okay. So I asked about the business and I said, how much income do you get from your business every year? And it's right around $250,000 of personal income that he gets. He lives a very comfortable life and runs his own business. I said, hey, how did you start this business that pays out $250,000? How did you start this business? Well, it turns out he was actually working on a concrete crew on a fancy house in Southern California doing this big elaborate driveway project. And a neighbor from down the street actually came over and actually walked right up to him and said, hey, I'd like you to do some of this fancy work on my fancy home just down the way. Now, my now new client said he went to his boss, the man who owned the company, this is way back when, that he was working for at the time, and he said, hey, this homeowner, this homeowner in this fancy neighborhood approached me about bidding out a job on his driveway. And the guy who owned the company that he was working for was absolutely gracious and a totally cool guy and said, hey, go for it. You have my blessing. And gave him his blessing to go and bid his first independent job. And he did. He actually went there after work and he bid the job. And he got it. The fancy neighbor next door said, yep, you can start as soon as you can start. I'm here and I'm going to pay you. Well, that's where it began. It was literally just a twist of fate, being at the right spot, the right place. And he started this business. So fast forward 25 years, he's got a business that allows him freedom. He's an entrepreneur, and he has $250,000 a year in income. Now, after all this, I said, why would I pitch you investments when you already have the best investment you've ever made? And he looked a little confused. He said, what do you mean? I said, what you're telling me is that you have this investment, which is what it is. His business is an investment. It is a very risky investment. Think about a business venture. Think about a startup business, right? That's the ultimate risky business. And yet he knows his investment, his business, better than anyone, right? And I said, you've got an investment that kicks off $250,000 a year. That's an amazing investment. That's awesome. And you could tell that he was starting to realize that he'd never truly looked at his business as an investment, as an asset. And that's when the light came on. And I said, let's talk about how you can get the most value out of this golden goose someday. Because someone will pay for this asset. You make $250,000 a year. Someone will pay for a business that generates $250,000 per year. You just got to package it right. You've got to build it right. You've got to tweak it a bit so that it is a saleable entity. Let's talk about getting the most value out of this business someday. So listen, if you own a business, don't lose sight of the fact that your business is your riskiest investment, and yet it's the investment that you know better than anyone else. So what you got to do is package the investment. You've got to get yourself situated so that you don't have a light switch moment. What I mean by that is a light switch business is one where, you make your money, maybe you're making $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 a year off your business, but you never looked at it as the investment that it is, and someday you retire and you turn off the light switch and you leave. That is not the way to take your best investment and deal with it. What I'm going to encourage this new client of mine to do is to actually have a business coach who will help him structure and design his current business and tweak it so that it actually becomes a saleable asset. Somebody will want to buy his business because it's actually a fantastic investment. Who would not want to have an investment that gives you freedom and flexibility of where you work and when you work and pays you $250,000 a year, right? So please don't lose sight of the business that you might be running right now, and always look at it from a value perspective. That's important. Really, really important. Now, that's going to wrap it up today. Thank you so much again for sharing your time with me. Please take action. Email me at craig@craigstrom.com and let's have a conversation. Let's talk about your own retirement income analysis. I've been getting lots and lots of feedback and lots of requests. I still have room on my calendar. You send me an email, I will email you back with a link to my calendar, and we can schedule a phone call or an actual web meeting straight away. Kraig, with a K, at craigstrom.com. Thank you again for joining me. I'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you are there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening.
Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.